Thank you, AJ. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So, a few decades ago, the software development landscape was very chaotic and complex. Very similar to today, I would say, but maybe a bit better today. Um, so back then, the challenge the teams were facing, they were slowly moving from waterfall way of working in the 70s to trying to figure out new ways of building software better, quickly as well as reliably. Because one of the challenges they were facing back then was building software was very, very risky, unreliable, took time. So in the 90s, 1995, I should say, Scrum was introduced. And then there was something called extreme programming. I don't know if you guys came across that. But in 2001, February of 2001, 17 experts came together in this very lodge in the Snowbird ski resort in Utah. They got together and came up with the legendary Agile Manifesto. I know, a lot of people talked about it, but I brought you the coolest picture. And the trivia as well. So thus began the Agile revolution. If you think about it, it is a revolution. It started as a grassroots movement, initiated by software engineers, scientists, and it became very impactful, even adopted by top management. Today we have terms such as business agility, strategic agility, and so on, thanks to these guys who came up with this. So it certainly had an impact on business, on developing products, and so on. But the primary goal of the Agile Manifesto is to develop better software. So if you look at Agile Manifesto, one of the things is working software over documentation, right? So it's all about how do we build working software quickly, efficiently, reliably. So I would like to share a quote with you. I mean, these days, you can't have a product-related conference and not quote Marty Kagan. So the most successful companies don't just deliver software. They deliver value that changes customer behavior. So we kind of do need an update to the Agile Manifesto. And back then, the challenge was, again, the teams couldn't ship features quickly, reliably, and over the years, teams managed and learned to build products more efficiently, build features more efficiently, but not necessarily valuable. And that's where we are today. The challenge is, today's challenge is how do we build features that are valuable? I think Rory mentioned this yesterday, I believe. Most features developed today, they fail to create any customer value, anywhere from 50% to 80%. I just want to have that, big range because I don't want to be wrong. It differs from company to company. So, along the way, Agile sort of became all about speed, all about delivering products and features on time, on budget. And the teams, product teams, started to sort of fall into this output trap. And most organizations or teams that I worked with, the primary goal, I should say, is to ship features. Once you do it, hey, it's a win. But that puts you in this output trap where you don't deliver any value. So I would like to share another quote with you by Jess Humble in his book, Lean Enterprise. In the digital age, winning is about delivering outcomes, not just outputs. Solving real problems for real people. So, why am I talking about this topic? Why is it important to me? So I've been building digital products for nearly 20 years now. And over the last 10 years or so, I've been trying to integrate research into agile development process, design into agile product development process, and improve processes and best practices to create value-driven organizations, outcome-driven organizations. And a short case that I'm about to present is one of my recent transformation that I worked on. Again, you might have seen this already, probably many times in this conference. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's attributed to Peter Drucker. He's a management consultant guru. Nobody knows if he actually said it. But it's really true. You can have whatever organizational goals, team goals, strategy. If you don't have the right culture, if you don't provide the right environment, the right toolkits to your team, it's going to fail. It's bound to fail. So in this case, what we did was we wanted to instill a culture that delivers outcome. I'll tell you why. So maybe I will skip a few of these slides to give you some context. So when I joined this business a year and a half ago, there was tech and there was business. So the business came to the tech teams, asked for, hey, build this feature, build that product, and the tech teams delivered, no questions asked. And their biggest metric is, are we shipping these features and products on time? So this was the culture in the company. And to change that culture, we looked at 4 areas. One of the most important areas is creating a shared purpose and values for the team. So we asked these questions. Why do we exist as a team, as a product team? What do we stand for? Is it to deliver whatever the business team asks us to do? What is our purpose? 2, how can we organize ourselves in order to deliver outcome? And 3rd is, how do we work together? How do we work cross-functionally? How do we interact with each other? And finally, how do we define success? How do we measure success? So most of this was centered around this foundational, purpose-led approach. And there's a reason for that. As I mentioned, the culture was really about delivery. And the designers, engineers, they weren't part of the solution. They weren't asking questions like, why are we building this feature? Who are we building this for? What is the outcome we are looking at? So we came up with this purpose. So this is not something that was forced top-down. These are purposes and values that that the teams came up with. So we did this with a co-creation process. And as you can see, the purpose we came up with was we want to solve people's problems through collaboration and human-centered approach to create a sustainable world for us and for our future generation. I mean, a lot of companies have company-level purposes, missions, values, but many teams fail to connect with those. For example, in our organization, the company's mission was to be carbon neutral by 2035. But what does that mean for a product team that is working on customer service? Right? They didn't have that connection. So it's good to have purpose and values at a team level. Also, if you look at the values, we had empathy, not only for our customers, but also for coworkers. Curiosity, learn about the product, the competitors, the market, the customers. Collaboration, trust, innovation, and impact. So, to reflect that, we went from a siloed team where business had their own goals, product had their own metrics, design and tech had their own metrics, to a cross-functional team. So this is more like a cross-section of a value stream. At the core, you see, based on the product operating model, the PM, engineer, and the designer for customer-facing products. And we sort of customized it to our organization. So we created a couple of more layers on top of this core product team with the extended team. Data analysts, solution architects, other developers, DevOps, and also the business sits on top. And all the, which includes marketing, sales. We also have something called CX, customer experience. And all these teams have the same goal, same outcome. So we plan quarterly OKRs together. So we don't have separate product metrics, separate design metrics. So metrics such as the CSAT, churn rates, reducing churn rates, increasing conversion rates, improving operational efficiency, reducing costs to serve customers. So all these business metrics and goals became the team's metrics. The third area is how do we collaborate? How do we interact? And this is where the process comes in. I mean, the word process has a negative connotation, but as many people before me explained, it's a necessary, I mean, I wouldn't call it evil, but it is necessary. So to connect with the purpose that I mentioned, all of this, if you look at the org structure, the ways of working, everything goes back to the purpose. So this is our own sort of version of an opportunity solution tree. So you saw the purpose of solving problem-solving mentality for engineers, designers, PMs, business stakeholders. So we started working with framing problems, framing opportunities, and quantifying problems, quantifying opportunities. How can we deliver the best value for the business? Not picking up the next ticket and building features. And this is a continuous discovery delivery process we implemented. And the discovery and delivery is not separate from each other. As you can see, all these cross-functional teams work together And within discovery, we had multiple phases, three-phase approach to discovery: insights, ideation, and validation. So we defined, I don't want to go too much into the process since we don't have enough time. How do researchers and data analysts work together to bring quantitative and qualitative data? How does those insights goes to the wider stakeholders to come up with different ideas, hypotheses that can be later validated? So out of this process, what we really wanted to get was continuous learning. The outcome, as you can see, whether we are archiving validated or devalidated feature or through experimentation, the end goal is learning, not shipping features. And if you're an organization that wants to innovate, the most important thing is about learning your customers. And that is the biggest differentiator for any organization. If you know more about your customers, you're going to come up with better solutions than your competitors. And then finally, the final pillar is redefining success. So change takes time. And if you go and set these business goals and KPIs and expect outcomes in a short time, that is not going to happen because people need time to adapt. So one of the things we did, maybe before we go into that, so this is from SpaceX. So every rocket failure gets us closer to Mars. So this is the mindset we wanted to adapt as well. So the way SpaceX looks at any of these rocket failures is, okay, we learned something new that we didn't know before. And that's going to help us get to that North Star or Mars. So we redefine success. Learning equals success. So what can we learn about our customers by shipping a new feature, conducting a research, validating a research, or experimentation? And also rewarding the knowledge share, for example. So we asked, or we rewarded people to present their learnings in team Hollands. And that way, for example, in experimentation, the core value of experimentation is the learning. And if you don't share that learning, and if you don't learn from that learning, you're not extracting value from the experimentation. So by sharing these wins and failures to other teams, they were able to learn from them, not to make the same mistakes in their A/B tests or in their experimentation. And one other thing is we rewarded the process. So when we did performance management or setting goals, quarterly goals for teams, PMs, designers, engineers, we looked at, or we encouraged, how many discoveries did you initiate? How many research did you initiate? How many features did you validate? So that reinforced the process, not just, okay, the business asked me to deliver this, so I just went with it. So we wanted to avoid those sort of issues by reinforcing and rewarding the process. And it's also about celebrating wins. That's how you keep the teams motivated. Sometimes, as I mentioned, to get to the long-term goal outcome, you need to able to motivate teams, even if there is a failure. And that's one of the things that we did with this last pillar of redefining success. So I want to quickly summarize what we did in this transformation journey, we rooted our transformation in the shared value and purpose of the team. And we reorganized ourselves to reflect on those purpose and values. Then we reinvented our ways of working. Once again, reinforced that mindset and culture. How can we deliver value? How can we collaborate cross-functionally and get to the outcome that we want to? And finally, the success and rewards. Redefining success and rewarding even failures, as long as they learn something from that. I wanted to show some numbers or share some numbers, but unfortunately I can't do it. But I will talk about a long-term outcome, or medium-term outcome, I should say. So when we started this transformation, we had this financial goal. We wanted to reduce the operational cost, so we wanted to bring down the cost to serve customers. So we had a target. And after implementing this process, especially the customer service team was one of the pilot teams, able to use the opportunity solution tree and the continuous discovery delivery process and so on, and live true to the purpose and values that we came up with. By doing so, we were able to exceed the set target. So we went 28% more than the set target for reducing the cost to serve a customer. And that's how you get to long-term outcome. As I mentioned earlier, to give the team a purpose, the right toolkits, the right environment, the right culture, in order to drive outcomes. And then setting those right KPIs, right goals, those are all matters, but without the culture, it's very hard to get to the final outcome. So I hope from this insights, maybe you can use some of this within your organization, whether it's a purpose, whether it's the process, ways of working, whether it's rewarding and encouraging, celebrating wins. I hope you can also able to make those small transformations within your organization. With that, I would like to end my talk, and thanks so much for being here. Thank you.
Amazing. Lovely stuff, Jay. Really, really nice. For me, the term continuous learning has been used quite a lot, but I think it's one that often I forget to try and champion as the only researcher in my company. So for me, a nice reminder back to basics for continuous learning, not just continuous delivery. Amazing. We've got a good chunk of questions already have come through. So you've talked about rewarding and changing what success is and looking at that. Great question from Anonymous here. What does rewarding failure look like for you?
So one of the things that we did was offering a small reward to present a failure. So before, in the all hands, people weren't really sure if they want to come and present something. Hey, we did this, we tried this, but we failed. But then we started encouraging that and also rewarding. We were giving a small gift to do that.
Yeah.
So then people started turning out and sharing their stories. And that way, the other teams learned a lot. Okay, we were going to do exactly the same, but maybe it might not work.
Yeah.
So that the sharing of knowledge is I think within the teams is really key.
Yeah, absolutely. If a mistake you have made, you in sharing can prevent someone else from making exactly the same mistake a week later, a year later. Really, really powerful stuff. Great question here. Learning is key. Agree sometimes product teams favor learning at all costs, and that might be at the expense of delivering and maintaining good quality to our users. So, interestingly, a lot of let's not focus on shipping lots of features, but really like value-driven features. So, how do you build that trade-off between quality and learning, and is it a trade-off?
Yeah, as I was saying, it's not just about failing for the sake of failing. I mean, we are shipping features, but what are you learning from that? That is very important. A lot of teams don't do that. They just ship it. Very rarely you measure it. Sometimes it also takes time to measure the success of a feature. So that is always overlooked because you're already on to the next one. So you don't know what you really shipped.
Yeah.
So that's very important to learn from both success and failure. And the goal shouldn't be, let me fail and learn. The goal should be, what kind of outcome I can get out of this feature. And if it fails, that's great. That's great. It is still a learning. So every time SpaceX launches their rocket, they weren't waiting for it to blow up.
Yeah.
They were expecting that to
You're right.
go somewhere.
Yeah.
But if not, you still learn from it.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
I don't think Jeff has a dashboard that says number of rockets blown up and a number he's trying to hit, right? But stuff to learn every time. Amazing. How do you manage to drive change in early stage startups? Still trying to find that product market fit.
So whether it's a big organization or a small organization, the culture, remains the key. Actually, it's harder to instill this sort of culture within bigger organization compared to the startups. So it's about also startup, the founders' mission. So the purpose doesn't apply only to the organization. It could also be teams. It could also be individuals. If you're a founder with some purpose to change the world, the drive comes from that purpose, internal purpose of that individual. And through that, they can also set up team-level purposes. Okay, this is my purpose and values. And how can I create something similar within the teams, within the organization, so we can achieve that goal together as a company?
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So great question, Christian. Thanks for popping your name down on this one. What would you do if you realize that the people in the company have different core values?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Again, so when you create these kind of values together, we wanted to be inclusive. Understanding what their core values are. I hope their core value is not working.
Yeah.
If that's the case, that's going to be bad. But how can we include that?
Yeah.
For example, when I share the values, there's things like trust, because these are from people like, hey, I don't trust my colleague. We don't have trust among each other.
Yeah.
So we need to have that as a value so that we start thinking about how can I trust. If I don't trust someone, how can I use candor to talk about it and work together as a team to accomplish common goals?
Makes sense. I remember a colleague of mine when I worked in a team that was involved in pushing the culture of a company turned around. And again, a quote that I think is misattributed or he couldn't find the basis of, but he said, it takes about 7 years to change the culture of a company. And he reckoned that was because by the time you got there, you'd onboarded enough people into what you said the culture was going to be and lost the people that didn't want to work there anymore. Yeah. I reckon 7 years to turn that culture wheel around. So it takes time. So if you are struggling with that at the moment, it is definitely a long game play.
Absolutely.
Keep talking about it, keep living it sort of every day. I love this top question as well. Let's dive into it. Last minute, sales team. How did you get the sales team on board to sell value rather than features?
So it depends on the organization, right? For example, in this particular organization, we have B2B, B2C. So the B2C is most of the conversion happens online. So the digital product teams owns a lot of this user journeys. Um, but bringing them in, that's one of the challenges, right? The business stakeholders to think from a value perspective. For example, when we were pushing for A/B testing for a feature that a competitor released, hey, we already know it's going to work. It should work. Why do we need to do the experimentation? It takes 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Then we convinced them like, yes, but we can measure success. If it succeeds, it's going to make you look better.
I love it.
Right?
That, I think, is your mic drop moment, Jay. If it succeeds, you look better.
Exactly.
Absolutely amazing. Please, everyone go absolutely crazy for Jay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What a mate. Amazing. It's my first after lunch stand in front of you.